guess it's really terrible. I'm not going to use it. Why do I have to do all the work? That's right. All right, look at that.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Best Tutorials track. If you weren't here before, I'm Lee Lacey from SoarTech, an Accellent company, and I chair the Best Tutorial team for the Tutorial Subcommittee, and I'll be the chair of this track. This session, or this track today, includes the 3 tutorials that the Tutorial Committee selected as being the best tutorials out of the 31 tutorials being presented at ETSIC this week. And one of them will receive the Best Tutorial Award at Thursday night's banquet. The deputy chair for this track is Greg Ouellette. He's a program director at NOC-TSD here in Orlando. A few announcements as a courtesy of the presenters. Please make sure your cell phones are turned off or silenced. The presenter is going to have 80 minutes for his presentation, followed by 10 minutes for Q&A, so please hold your questions until then. If you need to leave the room before the presentation's over, please use the door you entered rather than the one on the side. Please do not take any video during the presentation. You're free to take a photo as long as you don't use a flash. You should be able to get CEU credits for this session, so you need to be scanned in order to get the CEU credits. Later this afternoon, we're going to have the ITSEC Fellows presentation in this same room at 4 o'clock. Dr. Bob Sotomayor will be presenting. So if you have a chance, please come back for that. Our next tutorial presenter is Dr. Charles Cohen, presenting on Beyond the Hype, a strategic framework for keeping up with AI. As you walk around the show floor and attend sessions this week, I'm sure you'll see a lot about AI, and this is a good way to start the week with this presentation. Charles is from Cybernet Systems Corporation, where he's the Chief Technology Officer. He's been a technical lead and project manager in the fields of modeling and simulation, cybersecurity, image processing, sensors, robotics, human-computer interaction, and artificial intelligence for over 2 decades. Dr. Cohen also currently chairs the ITSEC Tutorial Subcommittee. His PhD is in electrical engineering systems from the University of Michigan. Please join me in welcoming Charles.
Thank you very much. I need to mention that I am the chair of the tutorial subcommittee, so I decided to withdraw myself from being considered for best tutorial. But I was still curious, would I have won? So I actually asked GPT how I would do it. I gave it all the information about tutorials, ITSEC, everything I possibly could, and it said that my tutorial was the best tutorial it had ever seen, that I'm brilliant, that you know, it's a crime that I'm not going to get it. And I wanted a counterpoint, so I asked Grok AI, what it thought of my tutorial, and it put it down. It mocked my PhD. It insulted my career and my family until I cut it off. So, take of that what you will. In this presentation, even though I'll still give AI advice, my goal isn't to tell you what is the best AI out there. My goal is to give you tools and understanding of how to figure out on your own what is happening now in AI, what is making an impact, what is just flash, what to avoid, things like that. So I'm going to blaze through a lot of stuff. And I have a bunch of sections, but one of the things is, at the end of this presentation, especially if you fill out the survey, I have a handout of everything that I use to stay on top of it. Most is mentioned here, some isn't, but these are the ones that I read either every other day or I look at once a year, like the one I'm going to show you right now. But these are, in my opinion right now, the current best things to look at. And hopefully after this presentation, you'll understand why. All right, so I actually am curious, in the past week, like last week, who here has used an LLM model? Yeah, that's what I figured. For work? Awesome, me too. For home? Yeah, we live in an amazing age. I still remember 3 years ago when GPT-4 came out. Yeah, I think that was the big, or 3. Yeah, it was 3. And it was incredible. And now I'm debating with my friends the nuances of what it can do, not that it can actually do it, and it terrifies me. So the problem is, right, we are being flooded with new aspects of AI all the time. My tutorial is 5 to 6 months old, and it doesn't even mention Gemini 3, which I use now every week, if not every day. So there's a ton going on. It's hard for even me to keep up with, but especially if you're not an AI expert. I mean, I read research papers for fun, but I have plenty of friends who don't, and they come to me and say, what's good and what's bad? And I want to give you that one-stop shop, right, best we can, of how to filter what's out there and how to evaluate it. And yeah, we all know it's going crazy out there. Just so you know, I'm not an AI will solve all our problems. I'm not one who thinks AI is just adding a word to the end of a sentence. I'm right in the middle. I think we're going to muddle through and find applications that we don't even conceive of right now. I do think, though, that AI won't take over our jobs, but people who use AI are going to take over our jobs. So try to stay current and try to I'm glad most of you are using it and trying it out. I think you're halfway there. Revenue is crazy, and again, this is stuff that you all know, but the research is focused in not academia anymore, but in businesses, and they are releasing models all the time. Because I work in defense industry, I don't touch the Chinese models, but I still want to know, how are they evaluated? How do they compare to everything else? Are they real? What's actually happening? So you can't just look at universities anymore, although they still play a critical role, and I'll get into that later. But everything seems to be happening in industry now, and it's crazy. Also, they say that it's going to be exponential, right? Nothing is exponential. I think everything is an S-curve, right? It goes up for a while, and then the technology levels off. Transistors did that. And the thing is, with Moore's Law, though, the reason why it has stayed relatively accurate for 40 years right now is because it's not just one S-curve, it's S-curves put on S-curves, right? Some technology comes along, people didn't think of it, modify stuff, or they change the definition a little bit, but the S-curves keep changing. I don't know where we are on the S-curve of LLMs. In the hype cycle, we're probably in the trial of disillusionment a little bit, but I think something is going to come after LLMs that will use part of it, that will start everything up all over again. And agentic isn't it. It's probably what we're doing with robotics. Research is crazy. A problem with this chart, especially with later years, is I can't tell how many were AI written by themselves, right? But still, looking at trends and what people are focused on, even what people apply AI to, still matters. So we are going nuts with the research papers. I was at a VC venture capitalist meeting in San Francisco a few weeks ago, and I only found one out of hundreds of investments out there that were not AI, up to some degree or another. And a lot of them are applications of AI, but still, it's, but they also don't want someone to say they're using AI when they're not. So just like all the military reviewers out there, right? Mentions in media, that's going up like crazy too, and that only goes to 2023. Anyone know what happened back in November of 2022? Yeah, that's right, GPT-3, as you mentioned. So it went 1 million users in days, and then 100 million users 2 months later in 2023. And you know, we have a limited number of people, but the way, so it can't go exponential, right? It'll level off at some point, but the way people are using it is just changing like crazy. So I don't think it's a blip. I think it's made an impact. I think it's here to stay, and we're stuck with it. All right, so we all have limited time, even using AI to help us figure it out, right? My goal is I'm lazy. I let everyone else tell me what's important, what's not, and I evaluate them based on past performance and you know who I trust. I have my colleague Steve Rowe help me write this. This came out of us just talking about how to stay on top of things, and he would point me to blogs that I never heard of, and I would point him to the first thing I'm going to show you in a moment, and it's like we have to get this down because we constantly help each other, and that's how we stay current. All right, so if you take nothing else away, you want to go and get the State of AI report. And the website is shown there. It's stateof.ai. It is a briefing. It is done once a year, and it has, I think the last one has 300 slides, and it covers everything. Yeah, over 250 was the year before. This year, which just came out, was over 300. And it has what's going on in academic papers, product announcement, policy announcements. It tells you what is going on right now and the trends of the past year. So if you do nothing else, this will bring you up to date now on what's going on. So you can all leave. You got the most important thing that you needed out of this. I read this, and actually this year they did a 25-minute YouTube video that summarizes everything. So play that at 2x, and people will think you're a genius, right? It has 5 sections: research, industry, politics, safety, which was new last year, and predictions. Predictions is my favorite part because in the beginning of the report, they go over last year's predictions and grade themselves good, okay, and bad on what they got right and what they got wrong. And in an update I got on their newsletter, so far 2 of their predictions from this year are already correct, so they're doing pretty well. And a lot of them, they get a lot of researchers and academics who are doing AI to help with this, but since they are an investment firm, they really want to make sure they're getting it right, you know, because they want to make money. So they're very careful with their predictions. Yeah, so because of that focus, they have market adoption, regulatory changes. There has been a military section in the past, so you'll find useful information there. Yeah, it's Nathaniel Benaich at Air Street Capital. And again, it's my one-stop place. Every slide has links to where they got their data, so you can read it for yourself and check it out. So this is an example. I'm going to be doing this a lot, showing figures from some of the papers and areas that I have. The data on here isn't important. This is just an example of what they show. But what's cool is this is from the year before, where they talked about data center power demand, right? That was barely in the news. Now it's what everyone is talking about: power consumption. Don't build these in my backyard. How are they going to fund? How are they going to spend $1 trillion to fund data centers? And they were already on top of it, catching the trend before it hit the media. So again, this is the one. Yeah, so military relevant, and they do talk about policy, export controls, benchmarks, all that other stuff. And as I said, They back everything up with the source, the paper, the data sets, whatever. All right, so now we'll get into the heart of this. And just as a warning, I did write this 5 or 6 months ago, so some of it is going to look dated as my references. Some other, one section at least, is totally out of date, so I will skim that and go past it, especially in the interest of time, because I have a lot of info. But, you know, the key thing is, how do you find the sources, and how do you assess them, right? What we all want to do. I'm a scientist engineer, that's what I like. So, I care about credibility. I cannot stand clickbait. The problem is, if you go on YouTube to find credible sources, it all looks like clickbait because they're gaming the algorithm. So I'm going to point you to how to get past that. And credibility means they reference things, they back up their information. They don't just spout stuff up and argue and have a tirade. I love Hank Green, but a lot of his posts are tirades, right? So you got to be careful. Relevance. I have 2 criteria, right? I want broad understanding of what's going on, but sometimes I really want to go into a deep dive. I use Notebook LM now because of a YouTube video, and I can't believe I live without it, right? So I sometimes want narrow, and I sometimes want broad, and we're going to discuss both. And obviously, it's what you care about, right? If you're a medical researcher, and I'm not, you need to find your own sources that are good for medical research and what's going on there in AI. Is there enough detail to be useful? There are people out there that will do high level, and sometimes that's good. But again, Andre Karpathy has videos where he says, we're going to build an LLM. And I lost half my day with that because I'm a nerd, and I had to see that. And I learned an awful lot that I never would have learned before, so that was really detailed. And I care about what's happening now. I can find histories wherever I go. I really want to know what is coming out and how useful is it. When Gemini 3 came out, I really wanted to watch videos of people actually using it and showing it failing, right? That's the credibility. They showed when it didn't work. And I need that now. And will they cover my needs in the future? There was one reference I'm going to show you in a bit that I used to watch all the time, and they've fallen out of favor with me because I think they just give good news and don't have anything negative about what they're reviewing or why. And so I just didn't care about it anymore. I also care about no profit motive or other agenda. I don't mind sponsored videos, but if there's ones that if I trust the writer or the YouTube video or whatever, and I know that they come out and say it and they still give negative things that are appropriate, that's great. So here's my first example. This fellow named Wes Roth. You're gonna look at that and it's gonna be like, yep, that's clickbait. That's really stupid. He is one of my favorite guys out there. And when you click start, he's very calm when he talks, and he brings up the paper and he starts highlighting everything, right? So Steve recommended this guy to me, and I wasn't gonna look at him because it just looked terrible. But instead, he has a lot of information. He will highlight what he's looking at. He'll point you to the blog post or to the research article or whatever, and go through it in detail and give his pros and cons as to why that's good based on his past research. It's more than 1.5 minutes. He has videos that are 20 minutes in one topic, or he'll give several in a row, and then he'll at least give enough information to be useful. He comes out weekly, if not more. He's actually doing interviews now because he's more well known. So what I like is the several YouTubers I watch, if all of them start posting about something like Gemini 3, I know that something has happened in the world. It was through all of them that I found out that the Russian robot collapsed on stage, for example, if you've heard about that in the news. Yeah, and reliability. Trust is the most important thing. And as a short aside, I think that's going to be the commodity now with all the deep fakes and AI slop that's out there. We're going to pay for trust. And I think that's, we had 100 years of trusting pictures. It was a good run, and that's over. So, you'll have your sources, hopefully me, that you'll trust and talk to in the future. Yeah, and usually no sponsor. Another one, this fellow who does 2-minute papers. And I used to watch this all the time. He would take a research paper, do a deep dive into it. It used to be 2 minutes long. Now it's like 15 minutes long because papers are complex and he can't do it in 2 minutes anymore, but he still does it. I like that in the last one he showed Asimov on the cover, right? That's always good for artificial intelligence. He does do excellent links, and the video focuses on one topic. My problem is, again, and this is the guy I was talking about, I don't follow him anymore. He's still on my list because Steve watches him occasionally, but he never has anything negative to say about a paper or even how it conflicts with what else is going on in the world. I still scan occasionally. I mean, YouTube throws them in my feed because of everything else that I watch. And sometimes it's okay, but this is a case where I evaluated it, decide that it wasn't a balanced opinion of what's going on, because not everything is, hold on to your papers, this will change the world. I really want the context and a realistic assessment of what's happening. All right. Let's fly through and continue. So, fundamental research. I'm a research nerd, and sometimes you just want to do deep dives into things, right? As he said, I'm a chief technology officer. I write a lot of proposals. The best thing about writing proposals is I get to do deep dives into technical areas to try to figure out what solution makes sense, right? So, how do you figure out what's out there when there could be AI slop, or what's going on, or it's totally new to you? Sometimes you're thrown into an area and you got to understand machine vision on unmanned aerial vehicles. What do you do? So we're going to get into that right now. And the best thing to do, this is very wordy, but the best thing to do is that top one, and that's survey papers. And you can just Google survey papers on a subject. Now I'm going to go into that with some examples. But a survey paper, when it's good, is very recent, is usually 40 pages to several hundred at times. It'll have a huge reference list at the end, and it goes through a history, what's going on now, usually some experiments with comparisons, application areas, and then future work. And you could always deep dive into the references at the end for stuff that you're really interested in. So I use survey papers all the time. The ArcIV, I think that's how you pronounce it, Artificial Intelligence Survey Papers, they give newest papers first. You can just go there directly. Again, search on that, you'll find it. By the way, you see how it says ARXIV and it's in brackets? In the back of my presentation, which I think you can download, is where I have the full reference of that at the end. I think I might mention it here too. So one of the first ones way back when was this survey paper on computer-assisted language learning. How does a computer help you understand languages, right? And it was a survey paper, and it was really cool. Semantic Scholar is another one, and it's because you have, it gives summaries of what the paper is before you open it up or even pay for it. That's a great way of finding out whether it's useful to you or not. I like the Journal of Artificial Intelligence because that's a peer-reviewed, curated area, not just a general, survey area. So the ones that are listed at the top are usually the best and the most recent. Or you can use Google. I actually go to Google Scholar or scholar.google.com when I'm looking for research papers. So let's see what happens. Back then, I said, LLM survey paper 2025. That's simple, right? And Google Scholar is even better, but I think I just did this for Google. And it gave me these 3 results. These were the top 3. Because I'm looking for a survey paper, no ads appeared. It's 6 months later. I don't know if that's true anymore, but it still should give you good results. And reading the titles, all these excited me. And the reason why it took me an extra month to write my presentation is because I kept finding all these sources that I just had to read. And I got excited. So here's the first one. And what I liked about it was a huge deep dive on large language models in general, right? And it was the state of the art as of February 2025, so it was very recent. The authors were from Expedia Group, Roma University, so it was 2 separate areas, but not the best as with other survey papers. And I liked the broad areas they covered: foundational elements, utilization strategies, chain of thought, which was very big 6 months ago. They talked about testing LLMs, and most exciting to me was it had almost 400 references that I could look at. And one thing I make sure of when I look at a survey paper is most of those references were not by the authors, right? If you see a survey paper and half the references are themselves, just throw it away. They're just tooting their own horn. So this is the type of figure they had in there. I'm not going to go into it because, again, I can't teach you AI in 90 minutes. Each slide could be its own presentation, right? This one, the second that appeared in the Google search, wasn't a survey paper, but it had a reading list from a GitHub repository, and one of the top ones in that list was that previous survey paper. So it gave me confidence that what I was looking at was really good. And unfortunately, this one is not maintained because he's moved on to other things, but all the links down there are maintained. So if you want to find repository of papers that are curated and updated, this gave me that really easily. So that was exciting for me. And again, I started looking at all that stuff because I really care about autonomy and robotics, not just AI. So I was having fun with that. The third one was a survey paper, and it was amazing because they had researchers from Microsoft, Google, I think I have the list down there. Yeah, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, the Czech Institute, all over the place, right? So there was a broad range of researchers that got together to make something. And this was, again, survey on large language models. And they, what I liked about this figure was, and I'll embiggen it in a moment, it shows a way of grouping the families of LLMs in an interesting way that helped me with my thinking about it all the time. It was only 44 pages, which meant I could read the whole thing, right? I didn't have to skim it, but it still had 244 references. But even better in this survey paper was at the end, they had, at the time, outdated now, but open source toolkits for LLM development. So if you're a coder or a researcher, this survey paper gave you a lot more information of how you can experiment with your own and design your own. So yeah, it categorized these things into 3 different main branches. And just the figures alone, a lot of these survey papers, just how they organize the information is really cool. So I always look for the most recent ones, that if it's an important enough topic, someone in academia is going to make a research paper out of it, because that's part of their PhD studies, right? They have to figure out what's going on in the background and what's happening now and make sure that their research is still valid. I check the authors and their bios. I want to make sure that they are part of the people in their field. If you look at enough survey papers and other blogs and stuff, you'll start recognizing names. And again, you start building trust with what they're doing. I also jump to the reference section. Again, make sure they're not referencing themselves all the time. And I don't do this in fiction books, but I like in research papers, jump in the end and see what they talk about future directions. I just like the prognostics of that. And this was one that talked about an overview of language model pre-training methods. And they had a whole section of this, which was critically important. So for more deep dive content, industry, right? They had 90% of the AI models that were coming out there. Academia would use them, modify them and all that, and they produce a lot of the survey papers and fundamental research. But for what's happening right now, you have to follow what's going on with the large companies and all that. Because the top models come from companies, reading what those companies' blogs are is useful. And some of it is unimportant, but some of it is highly important. So I follow DeepMind, OpenAI, Meta, Microsoft. I actually have links to them all. What's really cool is because I've curated my YouTube videos, if a number of my YouTube videos talk about a new blog post out of OpenAI, I know it's probably important and I'll go read it myself. This is showing the top models. It just shows you how out of date it is, right? Because it's, yeah. oh, Google is probably back on top, so maybe it's not out of date anymore as of last week, right? But Anthropic is a lot higher now, too. All right, I use YouTube a lot. I talked about Wes Roth, but there's others. AI Explained, I think it's one of the best ones out there. He does deep dives on significant papers and blog posts. He developed his own LLM evaluation system called Simple Bench, where he tests all the LLMs and gets results of them, and he hides what the questions are so that they can't be trained on them. Even better though, and this is new, AI Explain now has a splash page with all the benchmark testing areas, and I'll get into benchmarks later, in one place. So you can see all the benchmarks and look at them, and I have that in my handout. 2-minute papers, Steve still thinks it's good, I don't, but we can argue about that. There's Wes Roth. Tiff in Tech, she does a lot of interviews, and she gets a lot more into technology, not just the AI part, so I like that a lot too. And Matt Berman is another one that's similar to Wes Roth, and they're all starting to give interviews. For deep aspects in the AI, Andrej Karpathy has his own YouTube channel. He posts occasionally, maybe once a month, but wow, he invented LLMs, right? And so his deep dives are really fascinating and I think worth watching, especially if you're a programmer or engineer. Lex Friedman is an interesting one. He's an MIT professor of computer science, and years ago, he started doing these long-form interviews with leaders and researchers in tech, and that got him famous on YouTube. So he's branched out now into politics and entertainment and other areas, but most of his stuff still is technology. And when I say deep dive videos, I'm talking 2 hours to 6 hours. So I listen to him at like 1.5 or at 2x when I'm doing a puzzle with my wife or something, just so I can get it in there. But wow, if you wanna learn, he has 3 from Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, it's interesting to hear what he has to say, and he'll talk to leaders like that and get their opinions and ask really interesting questions about their thought processes, what they're doing now, where they've stumbled, and again, because it's so long, you get a lot of useful information out of there. So I still look at his stuff. The blogs. OpenAI, it's a great one. They have, like one of the blogs on there was Paperbench, how they evaluate AI's ability to replicate AI research. Again, that was 6 months ago, but they want to do research, right? They want AI to self-improve, and that blog post shows you what directions they were taking way back, when I wrote this, about how to do that. The Google DeepMind blog talks, deeply about AlphaFold and all the other work that they do. One of the ones back then was proactive agents for multi-turn text-to-image generator. So you get behind the scenes of how they do image generation. Hugging Face is very cool because they include data sets and also tutorials. And so if you're looking for data sets right now because you have your own system that you're training in a certain area, that is one place I look. The Berkeley AI Research Group, that's meant for general audiences. So if you're looking for more high-level summaries of what's happening in the world, that's a great one too. Towards Data Science is a curated list, again, from editors and stuff, and they do deep dives on their own. And MarkTech Post is AI research news and also tutorials. The ones I look at are the top 2, and there's a couple other blogs I go to, but I'll get to those later. And this was one that was talking about prompt injection. So 6 months ago, they were talking about how you could fool AIs using prompt injection, and that's since OpenAI now lets their system control your cursor and make purchases for you, this is probably not important, right? We don't need to worry about attacks coming from other places. Yeah, so leaderboards. I talked about that before. Leaderboards are where they compare one model to another. And let me just check something real quick. Yeah, so there are a bunch of leaderboards out there, and like I mentioned, there's that one site that talks about, has all of them together, but you can go to them individually. One of the best ones that I found, and I have references to all of them, is the LM-Sys chatbot arena. So what they do is, all the chatbots are there and all the image generators are there, even the ones that haven't been publicly released yet. When Nano Banana first came out, people found it on the chatbot arena first and noticed that something was blowing everything else away. So let's use that as an example. So for image generator, you would put in Charles giving a tutorial at ITSEC, and it would show 2 images of that happening. And you say, I like this one, or I like both equally or hate both. When you vote on it, that gets put in the arena, so it evaluates one versus the other, and it tells you what it used. So if you want quick images, this is a great way to go because it'll do different ways of, it'll use different systems to generate them. But also, again, it helps you compare it, especially blindly, to see what's happening. So now that when Nano Banana 2 came out, again, you can see it on here, and I was able to easily compare what works for what I'm looking for. Because sometimes, for a while, I used OpenAI's image generator a lot, and I switched to Gemini because I thought that gave me more realistic results for what I was using it for. There's something else. Oh, and of course, this works for the regular chatbots too, right? Research, whatever it is you want to do, you can compare, contrast. And on their main page, they show you all those rankings. That's how they can tell that people are like OpenAI over Gemini, or how XAI is doing compared to the others. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Oh, SWE stands for Software Engineering Benchmark, and they test the large language models on real-world software engineering tasks. So for software developers, that's the one you want to go to check out. And yeah, and when they have bench in there, like big code bench, bench refers to the benchmark suite itself. So sometimes they use real GitHub issues that are out there, problems that people are posting about, and they test it on that. This is the leaderboard. I think I have, nope. Oh yeah, that's the leaderboard from February 2025. So you can see how old it is because I only have Gemini 2.5 and GPT 4.1. So this is really, really old, right? And I like looking at this about once a week because I like to see what's perking up there, like what's climbing, and should I look at that or not? And that's what you want to know, is something else coming down the pike that you weren't expecting. All right, so fundamental research. I like AI enthusiasts that lead me to research papers, and then I do survey papers for the deep dives. Over time, I've learned the names of AI experts, and if they write a paper or have a blog post or even a YouTube video, I'm going to watch those. I like looking at leaderboards because it tells me what people are using right now. And I definitely go to survey papers, index reports, and things like that. All right, I'm going to rush through this one. Applications, because that's changing all the time right now, right? You can use vibe coding to make small applications yourself. But it's not just what AI can do as a general chat, it's how you use it that I really care about also. I use it to help me with writing. I'll say it, I use it to help me write proposals. I don't have it write a proposal, copy it, and send it out, but I might say, given this, what do you think of that? Or if it's an unclassified solicitation, I'll have it analyze it for me and tell me if there's contradictions in there, or what are the key points that I'm missing, things like that. But people use it now, you know, for video production, software coding. I think the #1 music in country western right now, music song, is AI generated. So people are using it all over the place. And obviously there are many other areas. We've heard the funny stories of lawyers misusing AI. Well, in the VC conference I went to, there's hundreds of millions of dollars being invested into a couple of law firms to just speed up the research and analysis for their legal actions so they don't so they can get to the heart of it where humans need to make all the decisions, and it's saving a lot of time and money. So for every joke use of it that you hear out there that makes the news, there's probably 10 really good use cases in that area of what's happening. Tons of hype out there, right? So there's two types of hype. There's AI washing. People who review proposals, you'll see they say machine vision, and we're going to add AI pixie dust on it, right? That's AI washing. Just, it's terrible. But people sell products that way, and these are some of them. Coca-Cola, they claim to use AI to co-create a new drink, right? And that failed miserably. That's crazy. There's also, products that they overpromise and underdeliver, and I'll get into those also. And that's where really good YouTube evaluators and other places like that are key for me. So do you remember the Humane Pin that came out a while ago? And they had their marketing was great. They did TED Talks and had interviews that were teed up, and it was terrible, especially with the price. What's funny is, though, because of one of the YouTubers I follow that I'll show you in a moment, he actually reviewed it recently, and he said if they had released it now the way it works now back then, it wouldn't have gotten flamed like it did, and it actually has some useful capabilities. Probably still not for this price, but it's interesting that they're still doing something with it, and I found that fascinating. The Rabbit, I think that's dead. It was supposed to be a connector to Uber and DoorDash and Spotify, and well, I have my phone, and I'm happy with that, right? And they released it, and it just didn't work. So I try to find out, how is the AI being used in these systems, right? If they just say AI in general and use magic words about it, it's not that way at all. They should be able to really explain what AI is adding to the system. And this is great for all you proposal writers out there, right? Don't just say you're using AI. Say that I'm using a deep learning method XYZ in my machine vision task. That's what you want to do. And there should be clear methodologies and technical details, right? Especially performance metrics. How do they know that what they're doing is working? Buzzwords, avoid that hype. And I look at who is on the team making that product. And that's harder for startups. But the best thing, though, is look at people that actually take these devices and test them. So places like CNET, the Computer Electronics show, yes, and they have those innovation awards, Tom's Hardware and the like. They will actually do reviews. And this fellow I found doing research on here, and now he's one of my favorite YouTubers. He started, I think, when he was in high school, and he tests hardware. He'll put on the glasses and test it out and try different systems. I can't pronounce his name. Marquis Brownlee, I think, is his name. He's on the list here. I highly recommend him, MKBHD. If you just search that on YouTube, you'll find him. And some of the other YouTubers I mentioned, they'll say, oh, well, here's the latest glasses from Apple. And then it'll say, I got these other ones that came out from Facebook, and they're still on my shelf, and I didn't touch them after I did my review 2 months ago. And that shows you how much I cared about it, right? It didn't change things. And so you get that kind of evaluation, too. Marquis Brownlee. There are also places where you can do surveys of popular apps. So sometimes, every so often, I'll just Google what are the best free image generators right now. And again, based on my past experience, I can tell, that's probably an okay site to look at. It's not full of ads and pop-ups and all that other kind of stuff. And it'll tell me, currently, this is what people are using. Look for ones that are less than a month old. And it'll probably have something in there I've never heard of, and then I can try that out. There are aggregators out there that are really good, and one of the ones I like is from Matt Wolf, and it's Future Tools. He will add things and take away things from his webpage of what he is using and others are using, and if they fall by the wayside, they're gone, and if they're currently used, and he's tried out most of them. So aggregators are a great way of going. I'm not going to get into this because this is just old. The best thing I can tell you is when you really want to test something, find a use case you care about and try it out then. When I need to do, my big test, for example, for the chats was I wanted a good list of all the state-of-the-art LLM models, a one-sentence summary of what they did, and a link to where they go. And I did that with Anthropic. This was a year ago. And it gave me a result that looked fantastic. And I was getting this for a Navy proposal. And it told me about a Navy chatbot. And I said, that's great. Give me the link. And it did. And it lied. It flat out lied to me. And I called it up. I called it out on it. And it started apologizing. And they said, did you make everything else up? And it said, yeah, I did. And I'm really sorry for doing that. And it actually cursed at it, which is terrible, but I was really mad. And then I went over to OpenAI GPT, and it gave me exactly what I wanted. And then when I put that list in, I said, hey, here's what I did 3 months ago. Can you update it? It said, yeah, get rid of these. They're not useful anymore. You want to add these, and I think you're missing something completely. And it put that in there in a format I can use. And to this day, I still don't trust Anthropic, okay? It's just terrible. I cut my $20 subscription. But I still go back and check it out, because if I want better writing and prose and getting an idea across, Claude is fantastic. It's much better than OpenAI. But if I want good technical details and a logical flow, I'll go with OpenAI. I think you get what you pay for. If you try this stuff out free, you're going to be throttled with your token limit and use, especially during the daytime. At nighttime, you'll get better results than the day. The ones I'm really interested in, I'll do the $20 a month version. I think Gemini right now, you get a free month if you've never done it before. It's worth paying for it. I don't do the $200 a month because I'm not that rich, but you know, it's worth 3 mochas, right, to get a GPT for a month. And I subscribe to 2 now, and I'll just mix and match as I go. So again, your application, find something that you want to do and test it out with your knowledge area. That it's the best way. Don't rely on other people, even the people I mentioned. And again, as I said, things change. I still think Claude lies too much, but it doesn't lie as much as it used to. So I find out what works for you. I don't recommend Grok. I definitely don't recommend the Chinese ones because I don't know what they're saving and sending back. Trust is important, right? And I don't trust Elon Musk anymore, sorry, so I will not use XAI. I already said this. Try it out, see what comes up, and the styles are different. And try it at night, because you have bigger token limits. Same thing for here. Image generation has changed so much right now. Sometimes you can't tell whether it's real or not. And everything that didn't work before, like the extra finger or words in the background, they have fixed that almost 100%. It's just incredible what's out there. I still wouldn't use AI art for something you're going to publish or technical papers or research. But I do RPGs, and for making characters and background, these things are great, right? Again, you get what you pay for, right? The free versions of stuff, and there's a lot more free out there, even from OpenAI and Claude. They'll give you things in Leonardo, but it gets throttled, and it's just not as good as what you pay for, even for a month. So same as before. And these are just examples, but they're all different now, so I'm not going to go into it. So if you have a need for something that AI is doing out there, there's probably an app already out there, so you can search for the task that you want to solve, and it'll give you some names, and you can evaluate them based on the criteria I talked about. But I'm telling you, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So, you know, be careful about that. And find out if others have done a review on it. I will sometimes do a search on a product and scam, right? I recently got emails from LinkedIn with job opportunities, but they wanted me to contact them via Signal, right? And I did LinkedIn, job opportunities, Signal, and I got the post that showed me, yeah, this is a scam and here's why. And a lot of those are just AI generated, AI slop that's ruining all the good stuff for us, right? But there's still good AI out there, you just gotta find it. Yeah.
So for image generators, the three I know of is Canva, Midjourney, and Gemini. Which one would you recommend for illustrations?
Illustrations, GPT is actually good, but I'm really liking Gemini now. The nano banana thing is crazy good. Just be specific in what you're asking for and then vary it. Okay? Yep. Not part of my talk, but I understand. So if you want to plug AI in your daily workflow, there's lots of things you can do. And I think I've already mentioned this, so I'm going to fly through this again too. You want to identify your problem, right? I wanted to get a list of what's current out there in AI and how can AI help what I'm trying to do? Is it research? Is it art, right? Is it step-by-step procedure, whatever? Search for tools, find out what's out there, or, you know, sometimes you can use vibe coding for your own application. I don't recommend that yet. And then try those low-cost options and see what works, and then iterate on it. So here's an example. I need to write standard operating procedures for work, for something. I have a system that I developed, and I want a user's guide or SOP or whatever. So AI can give me steps, help with the wording, check compliance, all that other stuff. And you can Google AI help with writing SOPs, and they have interesting things out there, right? There was a YouTube video on how to use GPT back when it was 4.5 to make standard operating procedures. But after I went through all that, I realized I didn't follow my template. So I had to start over again, my company's template. So what I did was, I looked that up, and it said, oh, GPT, and especially now Gemini, can take those templates and your need and say, put it in this form. And there are form generators out there, but I just threw that into GPT according to this template document that I uploaded, and it gave me the results exactly as I wanted. Again, I didn't cut and paste. I looked at it carefully, modified things, and it was what I needed. This is an example that I talked about earlier, and I constantly use this. Again, non-CUI. Although I have a LLM, the 120 billion parameter model from OpenAI, that's on our local machine. We call that the Beast. It's got a lot of GPUs. And there I could put CUI and other stuff, not classified, but CUI stuff, controlled and classified information in there, and do internal documents and company proprietary stuff all safely, because none of that goes out. But anyway, I'll take the RFP and the Q&A that's out there online. If all this online, I'm happy to throw it in there. And I'll say, what are the specs I'm looking for? What are the hidden risks? What's all that? And I will say, extract key performance parameters. How are they contradicting each other? Give me a bitter risk matrix, all this kind of stuff. And it will give me a lot of information that is not the final solution, but it'll definitely catch things that I didn't think about. And that's a cool part. Another thing is it gets me over the writer's block, right? All right, I gotta start reading the solicitation and doing some research. Oh, what does AI think? And then I'm in the flow, and I start getting really excited about doing the research and finding out about the solicitation. Plus, I'm now an expert on this because I've read a lot, and I can talk to my colleagues and say, we should not write this proposal because of X, Y, Z. And I think that's important. I would like the government to do the same thing with their own proposals, right? Are there any contradictions in there? Because I've seen a lot of them in RFPs. What specifications are you really asking for? What type of responses do you think you're gonna get, right? So anyway, that's what I do. This next part is using AI with private data. I talked how we download our own parameter model, and I go into this whole big thing about retrieval augmented generation. I don't think you need to do that anymore. It's just, there's other systems that'll do that for you, that'll help you make the front end. I don't want to get into a huge technical thing, and I think I made a mistake by including a huge section on this. So we're gonna avoid that, right? There's lots of off-the-shelf ways of how do you take a large language model, bring it in internally and test it yourself. And RAG is one method. But another method is this one. It's called Olama. And there you can download almost every model that's out there. I've downloaded on my home computer, which has a single GPU, some of the low-end models, and they work just as well as GPT-3, which is terrible, but it's amazing I can run that on my home computer now, right? And I'm pretty confident in a year I'll have 4 or 5 on my home computer because of how they reduce the model size and the need for all that. But you can just test them all offline. There was a YouTube video that also talked about how to generate images on your home computer if you don't want to have the restrictions that are out there on image generation. And I'm not talking about nasty ones, but if you want to make Disney images for your kids, you can't do that in public models because of copyright. You might be able to do that on these others. Not that I'm encouraging that, but there are solutions out there, okay? So Olama. Another AI resource is Focus with 3 O's, and that's for image generation. So again, it has lots of different models in there, and even a lot of the current ones that are out there right now, and you can set them up locally on your machine and test them out. So just do a search on those. And they also let you test online, but again, online will have similar restrictions. Hugging Face is also really cool because it has a lot of source code. So if you're a decent programmer, you can go to Hugging Face, download a lot of the systems and run them yourself and change the front end or whatever it is you want to do, change the user interface itself, whatever it is. So that's a place I would go. They also usually have in-depth tutorial how-to guides, start to finish, of how to implement it through whatever language it is. There are code repositories, GitHub. I mean, that's its own nightmare on its own, right? But there's podcasts and video. We'll talk to you about how to implement LLMs on their GPUs because they want you to buy their GPUs. These other 2 are really good also. I also like the Network Chuck. Host all your AI locally. He goes into deep dives of all that, as does Daniel Burke. Usually now there's video tutorials everywhere. Look for the ones done by humans. If they stutter and skip over words, it's usually a sign that it's still a human doing it, right? But they should be able to walk you through what's happening in real time. All right, AI isn't just LLMs, right? It's also hardware and other places of using it. Each of these slides could be their own 90-minute talk. So again, I'm going to jump around it. But other areas, like if there's a breakthrough in chip design, if they ever do the 3D chips really well, or stop using silicon and use something else that has a different energy profile, that's going to change how AI is working, and that's going to have impact on military decision makers here. Quantum computing, it's like cold fusion. We're going to have it any day now. I still don't think it's going to happen. But if it did, again, that's going to change things big time. So you want to worry about chips, edge AI. That's when you have chips on the end of a sensor or something else, and it's doing the pre-work there before it's sent out over the network. And a lot of the smart cameras now have chips on the end of them doing a lot of the work for you. So you want to stay on top of that. Again, quantum computing, there's another YouTuber I watch, Sabine Hofstetter, I think that's her name. She does broad physics topics, and she's going on into, hey, has quantum computing happened yet? No. How about now? Still hasn't. Here's why. And gives you the lowdown as to what people are saying they're doing and what they actually are doing when you look under the hood. I care about geopolitics, right? Is NVIDIA sending their chips to China or not? If they are, and I think they're allowed to this week, that will affect what China is able to do with their models, and that matters to us. So how do you monitor all these different areas? State of AI report, especially for geopolitics, that gives you a really broad year over year of what's happening. I actually like to do searches on AI chips and those report. Edge AI report is good for those edge computing areas. And look at the chip manufacturers. This might be too deep for what a lot of you are looking for, but every so often, I think it's worth following. And this is way outdated, but this shows you, this is from the State of AI Report 2024, where the A100 GPUs are being used. All right, again, robotics and medicine, right? AI is being shoved everywhere. Machine learning is at the end of the hype curve, right? We're using machine learning AI-based really, really well. It's just amazing what it can do. Use case for me, I take notes by hand and I have horrible handwriting and I dreaded from that conference I was at having to go through it and type it out and there was, wait a second, and I used my phone, clicked into the GPT, and not only did it give me what I wrote, but all the arrows and scribblings I had referencing everything else, it put that out there too in bullet form. And it was great. I actually didn't find any mistakes in that. So that was crazy. But yeah, you want to look at all the drones that are being used in Ukraine and Russia, that matters. So IEEE, it's Institute for Electrical Engineering, Electronics Engineering. They have these tech impact studies. Spectrum is the name of the magazine. There's the robot report. I really like MIT tech reviews. Most of them were behind a paywall, so you have to pay to get those, but I think they're great. The FDA actually had an AI device list. I can't guarantee how up to date that is now, but they're all in on AI, so it's probably still good. The robot report, that's a free newsletter, and it has quarterly top 10 robotic developments. This is a dead slide, and the whole point of this is there's impact areas, and you want to find out what's happening now, and there's a reason why it matters, right? So for example, soldiers. There was a pamphlet, a booklet put out in the 1940s about how soldiers are carrying too much, and we got to reduce the weight, but we never will, because soldiers will always grab ammo, water, and then food. Well, now it's ammo, batteries, water, and food. it just keeps getting worse. So if battery technology has a new S-curve on it, it's going to change how soldiers are outfitted, how our electric cars are doing, autonomous vehicles, drones, all of that stuff. So if this impacts your area, you should be doing research on AI and materials, AI and drug discovery. All these different areas are AI impacted, but they will change the world on their own. And I think that's where we're going to get more results than just AI by itself. All right. In all those areas, I highly recommend Rodney Brooks. So he did the subsumption architecture and started iRobot, co-started iRobot way back then, which is now going into bankruptcy, so that's really unfortunate. They do the Roomba, if you remember that. So he's pretty old right now. But once a year, he has blog posts that I read all the time, maybe once every other month. But in the beginning of the year, starting of 2018, he predicts the technology of the future. And he is an anti-hype person. So he will say, oh yeah, Elon Musk says we're going to have autonomous cars in 10 years. Here is why we're not. And here's my predictions and how they fared out. So he grades himself and what's going on with links to everything that's happening. So that's a one-stop inoculation against hype, if you want. And the bottom quote there is he's talking about how LLMs are going to take over everyone's jobs, right? We're going to be all out of work. And he said, you know, when I looked at how they prognosticated about autonomous driving and how there'd be no human-driven cars on the road, and that was, what, 15 years ago? We still don't have that. We're seeing Waymo doing it a bit, but it hasn't changed the highway yet. I think that jobs are safe, and he gives a lot more details into that. And I just like his well-thought-out arguments. So rodneybrooks.com, but if you just search on him, you'll find it. And he has a newsletter, so I'm now always up to date on when he posts something. So, again, in all these other areas, you should look at YouTubers, right, with the AI focus. You should look at, they go to tech shows where they have products out there or systems and they'll evaluate them. They'll break them too, which is even better. There's survey papers that cover application areas, right, like AI and battery technology if you wanted. And I also like looking at government use groups. DARPA is a great way of seeing what they think the future is going to be and what their approach is, what they're funding, right? Defense Innovation Unit is good. The UK one, Defense Artificial Intelligence Center, is also exceptionally good. But yeah, all the other stuff I talked about, fundamental research, it's in all these areas. Whew, okay, I'm actually doing pretty well. Yeah, so I think just looking at journal papers, the regular way that I used to do it way back when, just isn't enough, right? Because we care about implementation. And it's not just that AI is changing, but how humans use AI changes. And there's this feedback loop in there. I definitely talk to AI differently than I did before, and I get a lot more out of it now because I know how to make it work for me. The chatbots, the image generators. And then something will change, and my friends will have some better way of using it, and I listen to them. So yeah, I would look at those online places and live events and all that. For the humans modifying, do you remember Siri, all that? You used to have to modify how you talk to it, your intonation and clarity in order to get it to understand what you do. You don't need to do that as much anymore, but I still have internal tricks that I personally will use when I'm using a chatbot to get better information out of it. Like Anthropic and telling it not to lie. Sometimes will help. This cartoon is by a guy who used to do a lot more, Wait But Why. And he talks about, that whole exponential curve, and he really thinks that AI is gonna go nuts. I still think we're gonna have S-curves galore. But this is the first time in our recorded history where we're actually emulating cognitive function, not just mechanical. So I could be wrong, and this will be our last ITSEC, right? Live events. I think attending conferences like this, and coming to my talk, of course, is the best thing you could do to stay on top of AI, right? So there's AI conferences themselves. They have interesting tracks. You can just look online to see what they're covering. And you're here today on Monday. There are tons of papers out there that are going to go into AI, and not just the theory behind it, but actual applications. And even more so, the exhibitors, they're going to claim to use AI, and you should grill them and find out what they're really doing. What does it mean when they say they're using AI in their machine vision or using AI in training? What does that actually mean to them? They should be able to give you an answer without breaking their corporate secrets and all that. The panel sessions here are also especially good, and I'm going to go to some of the Black Swan events that are focused on AI and cover that. So you're at ITSEC, right? You're at my talk. You've done the best thing you possibly can for your entire day, so I thank you. I'm very humble. If you don't agree, just put it on the survey and say, don't do that again. Tuesday to the end, there's specific papers, and then there's exhibit hall. I just said that. I like to ask questions, so I'll ask at a talk, what has changed since you last wrote your paper? I did that once, and I got a terrible answer. They said nothing. And I was like, okay, I don't believe anything you just said. But the good researchers, right, will say, oh yeah, here's what's changed that I couldn't put into it because I have to submit it half a year ago. Another one is, where does your model break? Not everything's perfect, right? The military wants autonomous systems, autonomous vehicles. And they say, well, Waymo has them out there. Why don't we have autonomous ground vehicles now? And I respond, because they're not being shot at in San Francisco, right? And there's other reasons. You have different con ops, and here's why. They should be able to explain where their models go to break. I hope I didn't offend the military there. Good, okay. What data do you use? Is it publicly available? Can I have it, right? Data is everything. That's what everyone cares about. Facebook is in existence not as a social media site, but to get our data so they can train their models and make a lot of money that way. That's one of its primary purposes. What metric convinced your first customer to buy your solution? What did they care about your solution? Why did it matter? And did AI influence that, right? Was it some aspect of AI, or was it your user interface that really mattered to them because they could finally get at the information or the use or whatever? Again, can I have your source code? Can I have your data? Am I allowed to look at stuff? You might be surprised. A lot of times you'll get good answers for that. When I go out there, I try to talk business, and I know I don't seem like an introvert, but I am. So, I have these prepared questions, and I try that. When all else fails, and it's a boring time and they're not flooded with people, I'll ask them for a book recommendation. And I got 2 recommendations 2 years ago that changed me, and one of them was Ghost Fleet. And it was written by a guy who's high in tech, and I think a DARPA program manager, and it was about China attacking the United States in 25 years, and what was great about it was they referenced all the congressional actions and research papers and DARPA initiatives as to why what they said in the book is probably valid for the future, and it was terrifying, and I still recommend that book, Ghost Fleet.
E.W. Singer, by the way.
Thank you, very good, see? I don't think it was you that recommended it though, that's fine. I also ask Air Force people if they know about the Stargate, and that's a fun question too. The best answer I got was I could either confirm or deny the existence of what you're asking, and that's, all right, we're good. So yeah, ask a lot of questions. Newsletters. Some of these are amazing, and I have newsletters that I look at every day now, even if I skim through them. The best one, no, that's not exactly, but Jack Clark is good. I highly recommend it. Import AI. It's once a week, co-founder of Anthropic. He will have paragraph summaries of stuff that is going on and why it is important today. So that's my primary one. The guy who does the Guide to AI, he has updates. They're about once a month, but I find them still useful. Ben's Bites is pretty good. It's a little too much in them for me, so I just skim that. But the best one is One Useful Thing. So look up Ethan Mollick. He's a professor of management at Wharton, University of Pennsylvania. And, once or twice a month, right, he'll have something. And his focus is on education. So all of you who are in training, I highly recommend this guy. And he will give examples of how he changed his flow in education, or what he tried didn't work, and give you examples of how he loaded up the various LLMs to get results. One of the things he does is, every so often when a new image model comes out, he says, show me an otter on a plane using Wi-Fi. And so back in the past, right, it was terrible. And as of April 2025, that's really, really good. And the one that he posted in October is even better. So I think the otter had headphones and it was typing. So it was just, it's crazy seeing the changes, and he's tracking all that. So when I want really thoughtful understanding of the changes in AI, it's Ethan Mollick. Trend tracking. I've talked about these places before, like Huggy Face. Reddit machine learning is good, but I get lost in Reddit, so I don't go there, but other people really like that style, so that's up to you. Papers with Code is really good because their state-of-the-art sections have code in them. If I'm doing new research in an area or want to find out state-of-the-art, I like going there to say, oh, here's a paper, I can download the code, try it out myself, and see if they were telling the truth or where I can break it. One thing that pops up also is this Gartner hype cycle, which they do for a lot of things, and every year they do one for artificial intelligence. And so the bottom is innovative trigger, peak of inflated expectations, right? At the top of that is Edge AI, I guess. Where's autonomous cars? Because that was at the peak before, but I think it's getting better. Then there's the trial of disillusionment, right? And this was last year, because cloud AI is better now. I think it's moved along. And then there's, A lot of times they'll find good use for it, and then there's productivity that you get out of it. A lot of AI stuff is moving along, it'll jump around. More important than where it is on the hype cycle are what they track in that hype cycle itself. So they still have quantum AI, which is way at the bottom on the left. And neurosymbolic AI, I think that's going to be one of the things that takes over LLMs, right? Combining the past with what we have with present LLMs. So again, I'm not telling you what's correct, but looking at this will tell you what to look at, okay? All right, I would make a new image now. That was really hard to get 9 months ago. But again, I'll just gonna repeat myself. Evaluate your sources, look at survey papers, look at applications themselves and people who evaluate them, look at other tech and how it impacts. I loved seeing the Russian robot collapse. It is a hard thing to make stuff that works in the physical world, and LLMs don't understand time. That's a whole other talk. And in order to do real work in the real world, you have to understand how time flows and impacts what you're doing. That's why autonomous vehicles are hard. So, what I want you to do now, right? Get that state of AI report. I can't say that enough. Sign up for Import AI and the One Useful Thing newsletters. Subscribe to AI Explain and Wes Roth on YouTube. I would add Marquis Brownlee now. When I wrote this, I had just started watching him, and now every video he puts out I want to watch because he just tests hardware and systems, and I just love it. Go to ITSEC. You know, I want you to ask them, how do you keep up with AI? What YouTube videos do you like, or do you have any blog posts or company posts that you like to watch, right? What trends are exciting you? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think you're going to lose your job, right? Over AI, that's an important thing. And I think you should ask, you know, is AI going to save or destroy humanity? You never know what you're going to get. And I'm telling you, if you're at a booth and they claim to do AI and there's no one else there, they want to talk to people. I've been in those booths myself, and it's nice to talk to people about tech. So you can bring up all that stuff. And I have that handout. You're all welcome to it, whether you do a survey or not. And then I have all the references. So, wow, I did it quicker this time. Good. All right, so any questions? Oh, thank you. Anyone? You first, I'll get to you. Yeah.
So you focus very much on LLM. What's the hype curve on machine learning like from your perspective?
For what?
Machine learning.
So that's an older field, and it's been swallowed up by LLMs. So I would go to a survey paper right now because I don't know the answer. Okay, so my personal thing is we have not seen the big leap that we did between 3 and 4 of OpenAI and 4 and 5 since then. It's little tweaks and stuff. I think we're at the end of the S-curve on those. So there's going to be some new machine learning, that subset, that is going to surprise us, and people will integrate that with an LLM front end so that humans can easily interact with it, and it'll do something amazing that'll start this whole race all over again. I think LLMs are here to stay. I'm reading a book now where they mention an ELIZA protocol so that the person could talk to the computer using ELIZA. Remember that earliest LLM? And this is a book about, you know, far future, which I thought was hilarious. But it was written 15 years ago. They had no idea. So I think LLMs are here to stay because they make a great interface, and they just collect weird concepts together in a way that's human understanding because it's been trained with human understanding. But I can't tell you what the new machine learning thing is going to be unless it's an application with physics-based models. It's just that it's going to be a lot harder than we think. Yes?
So using proposals as an example,
Yes.
okay?
You're going to get me fired, but that's okay.
No, this is hypothetical. So using proposal as an example.
Yeah.
The fact that now we can generate proposals a lot quicker.
Yep.
Increases the volume.
Yep.
So how does the hype get affected? Because now with that volume, you almost need to
So the Army had a solicitation about using AI to evaluate proposals, which scares me, right? Because again, I think humans are really good, much better at evaluating, but there's still some first cuts you can do. But let's go back to your question, right? If AI helps you write a proposal that solves their problem and explains it clearly, why is that bad? I mean, that's one thing, right? They talk about, should AI be writing books? If a human enjoys the book, I think it's okay. But in all these systems, I think we're in the uncanny valley of AI output. When I read the output, I'll say, I want to, a recent case, I said, hey, for this solicitation, give me a work plan. I just want a work plan with a few sentences for each thing. And I looked and said, yep, I already know how to do that, I have stuff written, I'm good with that. Those two are stupid. Oh, that was a good idea. I never thought of that one. It was a type of validation that I didn't think to do. And so I didn't cut and paste that paragraph, but I went back on my own and wrote it up. If I would have just cut and pasted, it is good at putting words together, but do you all know what uncanny valley is? Anyone doesn't? Uncanny valley is when it seems human, but it isn't quite human, and it makes you sick or ill. So when they do cartoons like Disney or Warner Brothers, they use things that don't really look human, and you're like, oh, that's fine, we're happy, it's great. Or they'll do really high fidelity, it look perfect, and you're like, okay, that's pretty good too, like computer games. But then you have clowns or other types of images. The Polar Express was a movie that was close to human, but not quite, and it had the uncanny valley, and a lot of people could not watch it. I was one of them because it just looked gross. They were just humans, but they just were not quite right. And the output of a lot of AI, I mean, first it was the 6 fingers, right? But now, even when you're looking at images, I can pretty much tell that was AI generated just by how it doesn't have perspective quite right. Or the way it talks to me, yeah, that was a really interesting sentence, but the words make sense, but the overall thought does not. That's how they detect that tweets are AI generated and not. You'll read a tweet and it says nothing. In a proposal, it's gonna seem like it's saying nothing. And AI is good at saying what to do now, but not how to do it. So you have to bring your company expertise and have in there, here is how I am going to solve your problem and how I did it slightly different in the past, and my references and supporting work, experiments I did, whatever it is. And that's what I think will get you a better proposal. I write a lot of proposals now, and I use AI to help. My win rate has gone up because of AI has polished some things. And what's great is in the sections that I can feed it into, I sometimes will write, I'm trying to say this, but I don't know how to say it. Clean it up, and it does. And even if I don't use, and I usually don't use it exactly, but it's like, oh yeah, that is kind of what I was trying to say. And then I'll fix it, and I'm good to go. As opposed to sweating about it for 30 minutes or just not even doing it, right? It's a tool, but avoid that uncanny valley and that part. That's what I would do. But it's really prove that you know how to do it and give examples, not just what you're going to do, but how. Yeah.
Interested in your opinion on this. You referenced the Ghost Fleet book, which is a really fun book to read, but it's one of the scenarios we use in a lot of these disaster style books is
Right.
GPS and calm.
Right.
So as a paradigm, for 20 years now we've all heard, hey, GPS goes, there goes all these cool, great, innovative tools. I feel like we're at a point now where this AI is starting to really, and I like how you put it in your presentation, how to use this in your daily
Right.
routine. We're at this point now where it is becoming part of our daily routine and maybe part of these bigger systems as time goes on. In your opinion, now, how does that paradigm from GPS then adding AI, how does that kind of relate to you?
I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm sorry.
I'd like your thoughts on that. Do you see AI becoming this GPS-like issue where, oh, we build all this stuff with AI integrated into it, something happens?
Yeah, and the reason is, I just find that now I'm using AI in places I didn't. I will ask questions using AI as opposed to just a simple search, or even when I wasn't going to do it before, just to get an understanding of something. And not just give me an answer, but I want you to teach me with quizzes about this area narrowly here, and then I'll remember it better. I'm old, I used to code all the time. I mean, it was crazy, and I stopped because I write proposals, and I'm more valuable doing that. But there have been tools that I've wanted that just aren't out there, and I did some vibe coding, and it worked beautifully. But because I'm a programmer, I know how to debug it when it's not working quite right. I know how to present it to the AI in a way that a coder would and set things up. I had to make I had people around here that I couldn't remember names because I'm terrible at names. So I took pictures, put the name in the file name, and said, make me a flashcard generator that, if I get the right answer, it adds more people. And if I get it wrong, make them appear more so I learn them over. And it worked the first time. And that blew me away, but it also gave me a tool that I wanted to use, and AI allowed that. I think it's going to be as important as GPS. One other problem we have is recommendations, right? If you go to Amazon or anywhere else, you always get this first order recommendation. I want to buy a spark plug. Well, now it's, no, I'm sorry. I want to buy a corkscrew. And instead of telling you, oh, you bought a corkscrew, here's some wines that you might like based off of your other thing, it tries to sell you 100 more corkscrews, like you need more than one. And I know this gets rid of some of my anonymity, but I would really like it if it knew the kind of gifts I bought my wife, and instead of showing me those, it said, oh, here are some related things that are very similar, but different enough that you might want to buy for her. Wouldn't it be great? And once AI starts doing things like that, there goes all my money. Who else? Yeah, in the back, and then you. Yeah.
Just curious, I mean, you're saying you're writing proposals. How does this how does AI changing your basis of estimates, for example?
So it doesn't. It doesn't do that part. So what do I use it for? I get when I see a proposal, I think I know what the answer is because I have a bias, right? So if it's, again, all of this is a public thing, I'll say, here's the proposal, give me that first analysis of it, and I'll go through that. And then, and that might help me decide whether it's a go or no go. And then I might say, here's my solution at a high level. Does this match? Be brutally honest. I'll add that in there. And it'll say no, or it'll say maybe, or it'll say yes, but you're missing this. I still have to I have decades of experience in writing proposals and then producing the work that the government likes, right? We've done commercialization and all that. There's an ad for my company, sorry. So, but I don't have it do the basis of estimates. I don't have it, here's an area I use it a lot. In SBIRs, for example, you have to do a commercialization section. And I hate it because how do I know how to commercialize something that the Army needs a widget for that you'll never sell? But I could say, hey, here's the type of solution I have. What's a good market area for that? And it'll say, here are 5. I like this one. Give me a business plan with these sections. Here you go. That was great because I have the reference. I could check it out and I get the CACR for it and the graph for that and all this other stuff. So the work I hated doing, I'm now doing in 30 minutes as opposed to hours and hours of research that has little effect on the proposal. But I think it matters because I actually now think about where it could go and what it could do. And remember, I didn't tell it to write it. I said make a recommendation and then do these sections, and then I modify it. I've written a lot of patents, actual written, not AI, and so I know what patents go where, and I use that to support my work, as opposed to it making it up. Does that help?
Well, may I ask another follow-up?
Sure, real quick.
So if you go back to where you said that you
Right, I have engineers at work and I use those metrics. Right.
The metrics are changing right now, right? So if the engineers now using AI to help write their code, you just need somebody to help validate and verify the code is written properly, doesn't that metric come down, or what?
I haven't seen it gone down. I honestly have not seen it gone down. I've seen them do different work, different output, summaries of things, but I actually haven't seen it gone down. They might use different ways of doing it that help, but then they have to learn those ways and make sure that they're all good. I haven't seen a big gain in that yet. Yeah, sorry. I want to see it. Yes. I think you had a question.
So AI is becoming everywhere.
Yes.
Right? Recently, we had an outage, Cloudflare went out,
Mhm.
and things crashed that normally you wouldn't even think would crash because there's a lot of stuff going in the background. And that's probably another issue is how you separate that out, especially when working in government, how to make that clean. One of the biggest issues that I've seen with AI is the trust factor.
Uh-huh.
Right? And we've been, I think, as public, we've been pretty patient with the trust factor. You know, you talked about how you use Claude and it lied. I use ChatGPT and it's lied big time and it just makes things up. And oh, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
you know, but it's a trust factor. I'm curious, from your opinion, when you think that will become a bigger issue. Because right now we're just saying, oh, it's just wrong and we'll continue to review everything and look through it. But it is having a bigger issue, right? Like when you were talking about the tweets and things like that is, people start to not trust.
No, it's already a big issue.
Yeah, so
AI is generating rage on all the social media, right? It's making it easier to do that. It's already here now. It's going to get worse before it gets better. We're going to muddle our way through like we do everything else. But I honestly think we're going to have trust as a commodity. There'll be someone like Google or some other company, I don't know if it's Google, probably not, but someone out there who will say, hey, any video that we display, we are going to be clear that it's AI or not, and here's how we verify it and all this other stuff. And their commodity is trust. So if you take pictures on your phone and you go through that, people will know it's not AI generated, and therefore when you post it, people are like, oh, they're posting real pictures, not grandma making, knitting things. I knit and crochet, right? And I get sent this stuff all the time, and I'm like, this is impossible. For these reasons, right? And that's got to stop. So I think trust will be a commodity that we have to have. But the problem is people are making a lot of money and other things from exploiting the lack of trust, which is why it's going to get worse before it gets better. I can't help you otherwise, right? We haven't invented seatbelts yet for trust, and it's going to be a while. Sure.
Now that we have all these AI tools, what do you think, why are we still doing all the paperwork, sending in proposals? Why can't we make the whole thing like carbon capture, where you propose some AI expert and it's all done in a couple of hours?
How does the AI know what I can do? I think, see, I know people want to go that way, but again, there's the uncanny valley, there's the trust area, and AI doesn't drive requirements. It doesn't know what it wants. It doesn't know the high-level needs. AI does not need to have shelter, food, and sex. It doesn't, right? And so it doesn't have the overall parameters of, in the military, safety of the United States. How does that get turned into a weapon system and why that matters? And you just can't tell AI to do that. You could try, but it's going to be AI slop. And I think that companies, I get emails all the time from people saying, our AI can write your proposals for you. And they're wrong. They don't know me. They don't know my stuff. They might emulate me, but I'm telling you, it's going to be crap. And I don't see that changing for a long time. And when it does, we're all out of business anyway, so I feel pretty safe. I know it's not much of an answer, but I just don't think the government will get out of it if they do it that way. I think they're just wasting everyone's money. Have I depressed all of you? Is that good? We all sad? Go ahead and take copies. I got plenty. Just one sheet. Thank you. Appreciate it. Panel? That'd be awesome. Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, that's now that I know you, that'll be good. Yeah. Okay. Fiction. Science fiction magazines are flooded now with AI-generated short stories, and no one wants to read those, right? And they don't want to, even if it was good, they don't want to publish something that's not good. So
There's a trend that just started 2 weeks ago of political scenario. It's just good, and anything that's like 3 paragraphs, so short, and it's a little plausible, right? But you can immediately tell, okay, this was generated. But with text, it's a lot harder to do than with video or audio, right?
but even video, I mean,
Well, maybe you can go on the bit less. Well, I got, yeah, we got to share some, I got some info on video, bit-based, text. Hi, thank you.
oh, that's fine. That is not my field. No, I. It might have something. Oh, well, you know what? So let's go back. Let's use my techniques, right? I think if, so you should figure how to say that sentence. How do I tell that my LLM, local LLM is secure? Let's just do that. Survey. Okay. Local LLM security survey paper 2025. See what, go to Google Scholar or just general Google, see what pops up. There might be something interesting that, no, that's not right. That's the paper I want. And it might help you find some of the things that cover those areas. That's what I would do.
I go your way.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Some of market-based models answer. They send 11
Right, right. And you have to figure
I
out.
actually write my own models, and I write the GQ server, okay, the 11 or something, because you have to be careful. They send meta information. So if you use for defense purposes, it's not good.
We even put like packet sniffers when we installed our LLM from, which was OpenAI's model, so we would hope you could trust that. But we put packet sniffers just to see if anything else was going on, you know?
Surprising. And many times they load it, so they load the model, like some auto transporter, so they load the model. So now somebody knows, oh, this guy's actually using this one.
Right.
I'm not sure if it's really bad.
So, obviously, with anything powerful, there's always somebody who wants to exploit it for the
Always.
means,
We can't have good
criminals,
things.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw a bit of Mo Gawdat. I don't even know him. Mo Gawdat. Anyway, he's been in the AI world since just before 2000.
Okay.
And he said all the regulations, the legislation that we're trying to put in, it's just not going to work.
Correct. It's also old, too
Yeah.
old.
So we said what we need to do is program ethics into AI. He said, but I think we missed the boat. I think we're too late because it's already out there. And the reason he said, a little bit like something you were just saying at the end there, AI doesn't know what it does until it responds. It just responds to the command and it's goal-driven to achieve. It's the word from time.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's why I said if you put ethics into it, you suddenly found that it's what it is it wants to achieve. But are we too late?
Also, if you put boundaries on it, it won't work as well.
Yeah.
And then someone like me will be like, no, I want the more powerful model. I'm just going to use that instead. And then it opens me up to other things. And yeah, it's,
So what are our options then for
we're going to die.
Yeah.
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I think trust is going to be a commodity. If there's a strong LLM that proves that it's not stealing stuff and doing things like that, I think that'll be a competitive advantage that people will pay for. Look, I used to be on Facebook all the time. I was in some group that I didn't get ads. So Facebook actually was fun for me. I could see my friends and all that. And then about a year ago, it was all AI slop there. Not even ads, but just all these other things. And I couldn't see what my friends were doing. And I was like, yeah, that cured me. I'm
you know?
off of it.
Yeah.
And I miss it. But they broke my trust.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, right? And it'll be forever before I go back. I like go once every other week because I have friends in the clubs there and stuff. Yeah.
The meta information from cell phones, I'm in wireless business, now I'm doing wireless AI. So I've been doing AI for a while. Cell phones leak information. So for a few years, I used open source Android. And finally, Google sent me a letter. They wanted to pay $700 a year to figure out about it. I was apparently some kind of black hole in the world. It's like, they literally send me information, $700 a year, if I just tell them what I serve. I find it funny.
Wow, that's funny.
That's probably the money they make from average guy.
Yeah. And I get it, right? If you understand how, but some of it's used for good, right? If they know where